Thank you very much, Program Director. I'm not going to be using the Obama things. May I align myself with the protocol as recognized. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me add my voice of welcome to all dignitaries, honored guests, and fellow South Africans watching this event on television and on social media channels. And as noted by the chairperson, these are indeed unprecedented and challenging times. Almost no aspect of our preparation has been unaffected by COVID-19 pandemic and its impact across every aspect of our lives. Yet, despite these challenges, setbacks, and obstacles which the pandemic has thrown at us over the past 18 months, I am pleased to report that the Electoral Commission remains very much on track to deliver an election of the quality envisaged in our Constitution. The journey towards Election Day began more than 2 years ago with the ward delimitation process undertaken by the Municipal Demarcation Board, which determines ward boundaries for municipal elections. The board therefore establishes the geo-electoral landscape for municipal elections. Despite this process being considerably affected and delayed by the pandemic during 2020, the board was able to provide the final ward boundaries to the Commission in 2 batches. The first batch on the 30th of September and the last on the 1st of December. We are hugely indebted to the board for the cooperative manner in which they undertook this exercise. The final ward count for this election is 4,468, which is an increase of 76 compared to 2016. This handover allowed the Commission to begin with its final preparations in earnest, which included the finalizing of 23,151 voting stations. This is 539 more than was the case in 2016, and this represents an increase of 2.3%. This increase, whilst modest, further extends accessibility to voting and registration for our citizens. Over the past 21 years since 1999 elections, the number of voting stations has increased by almost 60%, granting greater access for voters to the electoral process. Ladies and gentlemen, preparing for and delivering a municipal election is by far the most complex and multifaceted undertaking of the Electoral Commission. Where national and provincial elections involve the simultaneous management of 1 national and 9 provincial elections, resulting in the election of 830 representatives into the national and provincial legislatures. Municipal elections involve 4,725 unique elections, and thus unique ballot paper configuration consisting of the following: 4,468 ward elections, 205 PR elections in local councils, and 8 PR elections in metro councils, and 44 district council elections across the country. PR means proportional representation election. The end result will be the election of almost 10,500 councillors into municipal councils. Predicating estimates from the 2016 municipal elections, and the recent flurry of party registration, especially at the local level, which the Commission has been experiencing. We anticipate that more than 200 political parties and over 65,000 candidates will contest these elections. If this feat were to materialize, it will accentuate the growing strength of electoral democracy within the country. A crucial part of our preparation for any election is the maintenance and expansion of the national common voters roll. Ensuring that every eligible citizen is properly registered in the correct ward forms the foundation of the integrity and ultimate credibility of the electoral process. The Electoral Commission has spent the past 5 years, since March 2016, engaged in a comprehensive program to update the voters' roll with address details following the ruling of the Constitutional Court on the matter. We are pleased to report that massive progress has been made in this regard. In March 2016, we had complete addresses for just over 8.5 million, or 33% of the voters' roll. Today, this figure stands at 24.2 million, or 92%. Of course, we do want to improve that 92%, but it is also impractical. I think you'll agree with me that in a country of a human settlement pattern character of South Africa, that 100% will be possible. That does not detract us from our commitment to realize something as close to 100% as is practically possible. Of course, this is an ongoing endeavor, and the Electoral Commission continues in its quest for the most accurate and up-to-date voters' roll possible. Despite our best efforts, there are still over 1.2 million registered voters for whom we do not have an address detail. It is our fervent hope that through the voter registration mobilization campaign being launched today, and with the continued support and assistance of political parties, the media, civil society, and other electoral stakeholders, that we can make further significant advances on this aspect of our electoral operations. That said, we are pleased to note that the assenting to the Electoral Laws Amendment Bill last week by President Cyril Ramaphosa, which, amongst others, provides a special dispensation to allow any registered voter without address details to still participate in the elections once they have provided address details on election day. This will, of course, be subject to a verification procedure. The integrity of the voters' roll, however, is not just about addresses. Participation in election is yet another important factor in the success and the credibility of the electoral outcome. In support of this, we are today launching a nationwide communication and mobilization initiative to encourage every eligible voter to ensure that they are ready to participate in the election. To this end, the campaign will encourage existing voters to check and update their registration detail, and will urge new and first-time voters to register. This will culminate in a voter registration weekend during which all 23,151 voting stations will open on Saturday, 17th July, and Sunday, 18th July, between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. to facilitate these processes. As always, South Africa's youth will be a key target of this campaign and other initiatives, including outreach activities at schools, campuses, and other venues where young people ordinarily gather. Our estimates indicate that young people are underrepresented on the voters' roll. This is not necessarily a reflection of so-called apathy by young persons. Young voters have had fewer opportunities to register than older voters, with a significant number of them only qualifying for registration over the past few years. Secondly, the youth of today are used to operating within a digital and online ecosystem and frequently seek a more convenient and accessible option for registration. The Electoral Commission is currently consulting with political parties within the National Party Liaison Committee to finalize additional opportunities for registration, and we hope to make announcements in this regard upon the conclusion of that consultation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, innovations form part of the Electoral Commission's broader utilization of new technology to enhance all aspects of the electoral process. Among the major innovations to be implemented for this year's municipal election is the introduction of a new voter management device to replace the aging yet legendary fleet of zip-zip scanners used over the past 15 years. Zip-zip machines have become synonymous with voting station operations for the last 23 years. Indeed, they have served us well. However, they are a technology of its time and they needed replacement. The Electoral Commission is in the process of taking delivery of 40,000 new generation voter management devices, which we believe will significantly enhance the speed, accuracy, and integrity of the registration process and participation processes on election day. To date, we've taken delivery of approximately 7,400 devices, which are being used to train electoral officials for use during the voter registration weekend and other registration initiatives. These devices will allow for the instant electronic capture of the voters' registration details, including addresses, and where wireless network coverage allows, to help check that the voter is registered in the correct ward using GPS technology. This device will also allow us to instantaneously check whether a person is enlisted on the National Population Register, and thus offer us an opportunity to instantaneously confirm the citizenship of the applicant. But the use of the voter management devices goes beyond the voter registration process. Crucially, on election day, these devices will provide access to real-time voters' roll, which will allow election officials to detect if any voter has already presented themselves at the voting station to vote. This initiative should put paid to any lingering concerns about possible double voting. In addition, these devices will assist us with ballot paper tracking, managing electoral staff payments, and other administrative requirements. Other initiatives for these elections include the following: a new and more modern and accessible public website, the introduction of e-learning modules for the training of election staff, and the e-recruitment platform for the procurement and hiring of election staff. Distinguished guests, in his opening remarks, the chairperson highlighted some of the many uncertainties and challenges which still await us as we move towards Election Day. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to cast a long and dark shadow over not just the elections, but every aspect of human endeavor. In this regard, safety protocols must form an integral part of our preparations and the delivery of every aspect of the electoral process. These measures have been developed in line with global and local health protocols, as well as drawing on the experience of other countries around the world and our own continent of Africa, which have successfully conducted elections under COVID-19 conditions. We have had opportunity to test this in more than 150 by-elections over the past 7 months, and are confident that when adhered to, they provide effective protection for voters, election staff, party agents, observers, and security officials. We thus appeal to all voters, all political parties to observe. We thus appeal to all political parties, to all observers, the media, to all freedom-loving South Africans to work with us as we navigate these uncertain waters. The difficult moment may not derail us from a course of electoral democracy, which we commenced with our founding elections in 1994. The irritations of the day may not be so forceful as to render asunder our electoral democratic experience. On the contrary, the discomforts of the hour must enkindle a new electoral democratic spirit. Such a spirit is necessary to sustain our constitutional journey. Let us once again rise up as a nation in solidarity and support for all electoral democracy to show the world that 27 years on, electoral democracy is alive and thriving in our country. I now briefly turn to the creative campaign that we are launching this morning. Every voice together. With this tagline, we want to create a message that inspires more South Africans, and in particular, the youth, to make their voices heard in this year's local government elections. There's little that's greater than the sentiment of home, the sentiment of community, where you are from and belong to. We wanted to tap into that sentiment of home, that sentiment of community, and that sentiment of belonging. Every voice together embodies the sentiment and spirit of communities coming together and the power that we have in numbers, because the actual work begins in the home, begins in our community. The possibilities of every voice, of every X, every voice in every community coming together at the ballot box. So we say, put your X for your community, and we say, every voice together. Ke a leboga. Come on.